Somehow I just started to look for the confirmation of my bias. And I decided to go with the flow and see where that would take me. And essentially, what I created in my project was a dystopia, which is called People's Republic of Łódź, or Lodz. I decided to photograph certain things in Lodz that would remind me of Donetsk. I would talk to people. I would try to essentially create an alternative reality.
My idea initially was to try and tap into this in quite a literal manner, and to maybe go on these kind of guided tours, and to very explicitly try and feel and hear the stories that are sort of sold to foreigners.
In terms of photography, of course, it's very much about capturing light, but also for me, it's about the spiritual light. And it's something that runs all through my work. You know, I kind of see people as a metaphor for life and the aspirations that people have, and light is a metaphor for the aspiration that goes through people and communities.
Basically, I was quite interested with the concept of Flâneur. So my idea was to come to the city and to try exploring it, you know, as a flaneur.
So I suppose my approach is influenced a lot by surrealism and what Ian Walker describes as the documentary surreal. So you take the very ordinary every day and you find chance on the street. And so it's somewhere between, I suppose, street photography and fine art practice, or a poetic way of, or a different consciousness of interacting on site with the city and what you find, and hoping that something will emerge.
When I started, actually, I didn't know, what to go. I'd never been to Hamburg before, so I wanted to cover. I wanted to approach the city exactly the way as I did for the London one. So I started to walk around the city first. So I walked around for 2 or 3 days just to get the sense of the city.
Lisbon, I didn't know Lisbon before, so it was really great. And when Nuno told me about this project, it was exactly what I love to do. So just get lost and discover a place. So I could focus on some theme, some things I was attracted.
As fotografias que eu expus no Flâneur vêm de um projeto que se chama Bang, e este Bang, que é uma coisa muito imediata, muito forte, de rajada, é o resultado das minhas deambulações e vadiagens pela cidade, essencialmente por Lisboa.
So we started like studying even before, prior to go to the place, and we decided to find a series of elements we wanted to explore a bit more in depth. And being there, we started collecting information and material. That means taking pictures, meeting people, talking to people, etc., etc. So the time that we spent in situ, on site, has been just a time of gathering information, and we then elaborated one back in Milan.
My force, my energy was really low, and I really needed to rest. So I decided to adapt the commission to something that also could portray the moment where I was, emotionally and physically. So, vale. Okay, sorry. And so the idea, I decided also that I wanted to stay in the hotel. It's just that I decided that I could also tell a story within the hotel, a story that had to do something with Poland, but also about me, because I understand the role of the photographer as an agent of understanding.
But when I was planning for this project, I also got interested in combining two types of pictures to make also outdoor street views and see how these pictures communicate with the studio pictures. So my idea was to show the surface in some way, and then to show what kind of stuff pops out if you scratch the surface. So I named my series, I gave it the name Scratching the Surface. So this is kind of the concept.
Mine was quite a specific Flâneur journey because it began with certain boundaries and set themes. So I was given the challenge of working with brass bands and looking at brass bands in a very particular area near Derby. So I went to visit the brass bands, and initially, actually, I wasn't very excited and couldn't really see how I could add to watching this art form play and the enjoyment that I got from this music and seeing all these rehearsals coming to life and the vitality of that. I found actually trying to put it into a 2D image was quite limiting. So I was, and also very aware of the fact that it had to be square. It was a new challenge for me.
I think it's really nice to have the pictures, the work out again on the street, because that's really like closing the circle. It's as I said, I start with an object in the street, which is my camera, and start communicating with people, and then it ends again with an object in the street, and people have to react to that object. So I really like this coincidence that the input is done in the same way as the output works. So that's really nice.
No meu processo há sempre uma mistura de intuição com um rigor, se quisermos também, de uma pesquisa em termos, neste caso em concreto, o que é que são as cidades hoje em dia. E neste caso em concreto colocou-se-me essa situação e de como é que eu vou abordar como é que eu posso dali desenvolver um projeto que de facto faça sentido e que continue, no fundo, a dialogar também com todo aquilo que eu tenho vindo a pesquisar e a desenvolver.
Well, it was really hard to define this practice as something different from my ordinary practice. You know, I quite fast I realized that pretty much always I'm a flaneur. So a starting point for me always is just hanging around without any proper direction. And
the first day, nothing particular in my mind. I just wanted to feel the city. And it's important not to focus on something, because otherwise I pass through important things. So I didn't want to study books about Lisbon before. I didn't want to have a proper idea, and I just wanted to be fresh.
And so suddenly this requirement of making square pictures added a bit of a challenge to the process. So I had to think in two formats at the same time, trying to make compositions that work in two different picture formats, 5x4 and the square formats. Of course, I could have made a quick decision to kind of only make squares, but because of my pictures would be shown also in a gallery during this festival, Kaunas Photo Festival, so I wanted to use also the format that I'm more comfortable with. So then I sort of was thinking kind of always when making pictures, I had to be thinking of two pictures at the same time. So
I like it to be like a mirror, because I'm photographing contemporary issues. So that's what we are. It's not that person in concrete, but that's the world we live in. So, and somehow I think I achieved that, and it creates what I like to. I think it quite happens. Is a mix between it's funny, but at the same time it's a bit scary, you know.
Não articula-se com as ideias que eu tenho sobre a deambulação fotográfica no meu trabalho. Parte muito por essa ideia de deambulação, de como é que se circula por um espaço urbano, e parte muito com essa ideia de uma grande aceitação daquilo que me é dado, e de não ir com muitas ideias pré-concebidas. Portanto, se o trabalho me leva para um determinado lado, eu sigo.
Looks very different to the way people would normally see it, and encourages their curiosity and try and gets them involved as well.
I mean, our working process, it's just constantly photographing, just all the time, quite obsessively, really, isn't it? And then selecting, trying to hone down and distill the essence of a place. In this particular occasion, we didn't really have as much time as we would have liked to explore, so we just had to make the most of every opportunity. You know, we were busy running this museum that we created, so it was very intensive.
We decided that this would be maybe a different thing from the series we do itself, because the beamer projection was a lot more about an experience that you have. It was less about the single image and less about a perfectly composed image. It was really more about going into a dark room and experiencing the spaces we photographed projected onto planes and having a spatial experience. So I think for us, maybe it wasn't as important to focus on the way it was presented in the end during the process of photographing.
The idea of normally when you make a show, it is very important. Well, I make books most of the time, and when you make a book, you control most of the process. But when you prepare pictures that are supposed to be shown in an exhibition, in a festival, it changes a lot. When it's indoors, you never really know where they're going to be shown. And yes, maybe it was also playing with that idea of indoors, outdoors. Normally, the exhibition should be indoors, and my work should have been done outdoors, and we just did the opposite. I didn't take any picture from the street, but my pictures were in the street. So.
O meu território de eleição, na verdade, é os territórios periféricos. Mesmo dentro do centro da cidade, são as coisas periféricas. Não me interessa, na verdade, fazer um levantamento do espaço em si. Quer dizer, eu trabalho dentro do espaço, trabalho dentro de um território. Não trabalho focado nesse território.
Well, there is some are things that are like at the beginning you take these decisions, so it can be part of the conceptual part of the creative process, but others are just solutions given to the limitations of the space and the limitations maybe of lights. The room was small, so if I reduce the amount of wall and making the picture square, I could multiply the backgrounds in a way, because it's yes, because I mean you can. I try to shoot square most of the time because most of the time my point of interest is right in the center of the photograph, and I could get rid of 1/3 of the horizontal part in most of my images. Everything is in the middle of the image, so in this case it was much better just to save these maybe other interesting backgrounds that could appear by chance in the photograph for another shot.
And then when the things became more clear, I somehow would try to prepare a bit for Lisbon, and I read about Lisbon and try to get some information, because it's very, very important to have a bit of information about the past of Portugal, like Salazar regime. If you want to understand the 60s architecture and the 60s utopia of how a city should work and the urban patterns and structures, then you have to know about the political background.
So the images I showed were all taken from the high rise where I live, which is in East London. And it's a sort of quite heterogeneous neighborhood. Yet the views of London are the views we don't often see, because they are sort of the banal, the everyday, the rain, the neglected, the dismissed. So I'm interested in making that visible. I think there's a poetry within that banality of the everyday. And of course, Somerset House, the scene of the staging of the work is very different. It's the most beautiful, photogenic, elaborate building. So there's a contrast between the way London likes to show itself and its history, its significant history, and the contemporary city.
Por outro lado, de certa maneira, estou numa situação privilegiada, porque pelo menos conheci e frequentei muito o espaço onde a exposição vai ser feita. Portanto, conheço bastante bem o sítio, não? A praça onde o trabalho vai ser colocado. E isso influenciou também um bocado a escolha das imagens, não é? Uma praça antiga, fechada, uma praça quadrada. E aí também começou a fazer sentido trazer esse espaço circundante da cidade para dentro da cidade. Portanto, uma coisa bastante simples, uma ideia bastante simples, mas que começou a fazer mais sentido, de trazer esse fora para dentro.
Also, I find very positive, at least for me, to have the chance to know more about the topic, because I've been living in UK for 10 years in London, and London is a little bit of a bubble compared to the rest of the country. So I knew all the stories about working class miners and strikes, etc., etc. But it's like a distant noise. To go there, to see, to talk to people, it changes dramatically the perception of the whole thing. No, and this is. Super important outside any artistic or aesthetical discussion, and I'm very grateful to have the opportunity to be there and explore the topic in depth.
Well, I suppose where I was located as well, with the Flâneur project, they housed me in a particular neighbourhood that I suppose it would have been very working class and very diverse. The ethnic mix was very diverse, and yeah, and it was a little bit sleazy. It was great, and it was just right up my alley. I love that. There was personality and character and time in the buildings. I could see the time, so it was far that way. The first week I did, I drifted out and I wandered a lot, but I think I eventually settled. Where I found myself returning to was the sea, just the down by. It's been a while now. I have to look at the map again, but I just went down to pretty much the ocean. I'll have to look at the map again now because I can't even remember the district. But it was pretty much like it was a new area. It was a promenade that was developed, and it was basically a long stretch where people walked, and there was an open stretch you could see, and it was in between, and I just found like I gravitated to where the ordinary people were going backwards and forwards to work. As well as you didn't want to be photographing tourists. There were some what I figured might be tourists, and trying not to, trying to go where the regular normal people go rather than the tourists, because there were a lot of tourists. I was there in the summer.
Riga for me, but prior to going there, represented this place that I really knew nothing about, and I was aware it was a Soviet country and was sort of a point of tension for East and West. But aside from that, I had no idea as to what it was going to be like. It wouldn't necessarily have the sophisticated infrastructure that it does. That realization, whilst also in the process of making work, because you become quite analytic about these things. And no, I battled with whether to read lots about Riga beforehand or to go there completely open-minded, or maybe not so open-minded. But to go, it was, I bought lots of books about Latvia and about Riga, and I started to read them, and then I thought, no, this is going to kind of.
The thing I needed to find a connection, and the connection that I found was the fact that I'm a working class person who's come, my family worked in factories all their lives, and we have worked our way up, the social kind of hierarchy, you could say. And I suppose the connection that I found was that these were also working class people. These were people that worked in, traditionally would have worked in the coal mines. And so at the time, the textiles industry and the coal mining industry, the working class spirit of these people, I felt was the same as people that, as my background.
Actually, I love the idea, but I took something from the city and from people, this intimacy, and I will give back more clearly to them. And I just borrow something and I give back with my digester, my sensitivity. I give back to the city. And I love this idea. And I would love to see the reaction of people and how comfortable they feel enough to drink a beer and put their glass on the top of the cube. Why not? It's part of their city.
Well, the presentation on the gallery wall has so many limits because it has become a certain ritual of, of experiencing art in a certain space that has certain rules. And so I think taking art or taking photography outside of these locations to some new venues is something that has huge potential.
É uma experiência relativamente nova, mas eu gosto gosto que o meu trabalho às vezes saia da parede da galeria, da parede do museu e cumpra outras funções em que as pessoas se relacionem com o trabalho de outra maneira.
O meu trabalho esteve exposto em Paris, estava na cidade universitária e é como há pouco estavas a dizer, muitas vezes aquilo eram usados como mesas, estás a perceber? Pontos de encontro e pontos de apoio. E no meio de outras conversas iam olhando para as imagens. Eu acho isso interessante. Acho interessante o facto de o público não ir todo de uma vez ver as imagens, vai passando, vai a caminho vai em trânsito para...
I've always wanted to get more outside of the gallery. So I find the gallery quite frustrating because it does limit the experience of people come to see photography, and it limits the audience hugely and the way that they see it. There's a formality of the art gallery that I find frustrating. So taking the boxes out, in a way there was new limitations with this format, but I found that opened up a lot more opportunities for thinking about work. Yeah.
So, what I find great about this idea of the project all over the world, because I've seen lots of pictures of, other cities as well. I think that is the people are, more open, if you want. I mean, they look at the pictures and they, you can have also, a group of friends together, 10 people together looking at the same image, around the image, which is great because you share ideas and while you share your lunch or, your beer.
In that sense, I think it worked because we did something different, and it was not about that gallery space, protected space. I'm not sure how many people outside of the photography world came because it was only this one evening event as well. But I think there was also the idea that we were going for, to really put it into a different sort of context.
Eu fico até muito satisfeito. Acho que vai ser ótimo ver esse uso. Espero que haja esse uso, que não haja essa barreira de seriedade. Acho que este trabalho vai, pelo menos da maneira como eu pensei, tem esse lado também muito lúdico, quase, não é? de interação. Portanto, tudo o que acontecer eu vou achar bom.
Here we explain that it can be Flâneur, it can be a work that refers to flâneurie, walking, discovering way of life of a street photographer. It can be new urban, anything urban but new, and narrative. So it must be not a single work, but not a set of single photographs, but it must be a collection of photographs. So we're very much open to the adventure of what photographers are about to propose us in terms of what are those new urban narratives.
Era um projeto de rede de trabalho com várias entidades ligadas à fotografia a nível europeu e com um enquadramento na cidade, trabalhando a cidade a partir da fotografia contemporânea e exibindo os trabalhos produzidos no espaço público dessas mesmas cidades.
Well, it was a very interesting project when they first proposed it to us in at Cortona on the Move. First of all, because it comprehends different photo festivals, different experiences around Europe. So it becomes a way of looking at our cities from different points of views.
Uma das principais diferenças do projeto é trazer os trabalhos de arte contemporânea, que têm por hábito estar nas paredes brancas dos museus, das galerias, e de artistas conceituados, que geralmente expõem nesses espaços, e apresentá-los no espaço público, partilhando esse trabalho de alta qualidade com o público em geral e com o público anônimo.
We had the opportunity to choose photographers and commission them. And so this is quite rare nowadays to have this possibility, but it's nice to think of the person, the photographer, the artist that can work on a specific city and on a specific project and trying to match their vision, their language, and see what they come up with.
Flâneur project for me was the first time when I was really working in a project that is since the very beginning till the very end in every single dimensions based on networking and based on exchange, interaction with the viewers, with the curators, with the artists. Everything is linked.
Todos esses lados, esse lado do mundo se tornar mais pequeno e mais acessível, possibilitou criar um projeto com essa dimensão, envolvendo parceiros com vários parâmetros e de várias, no fundo, de várias latitudes, vindo desde a Letônia, Lituânia, até a Espanha e Portugal e Itália, passando por França, passando por Inglaterra, Irlanda, pelos vários países. Nós temos a volta de 14 países, temos a volta de 20 parceiros que trabalham em diferentes dimensões.
This kind of projects where the ideas come from the collective consciousness, because it's not, of course, there is a godfather, we say Nuno Salgado, there's someone who has the first click in the mind, but then the idea was distributed, and it was like a real collective process of Flâneur in the European skies.
En este caso, el arte está en la calle y está a su alcance, ¿no? Pero bueno, es un punto más que yo creo que es importante, especialmente por eso, porque es una cosa de gran calidad, de una factura absolutamente impecable, puesta en un espacio céntrico de la ciudad, en el cual lo ponemos a disposición de todo el público, ¿no? Sea cual sea su relación con el arte, sea el que quiere verla desde una posición más lejana o sea del niño que quiere jugar con el espacio, ¿no?
I think the structures, the light boxes themselves are quite architectural as well. They're very strong, and the people are able to walk over and on and in between the images and over them, in fact, as well. So I really liked how they changed the architecture of the public space when I saw them in Portugal, and that's something that we really wanted to bring to Derby as part of our festival in format, and to support to be seen all over Europe as well, in all the other places from Łódź to Hamburg and all the other locations that have been involved.
But for sure, they live the experience of Flâneur of like something that bring them closer to the artistic part of the festival. It's like let's say that Flâneur has been like something that put people closer to the festival, because the interaction with the structure, with the interaction with the picture was easier and more informal than come to us, pay for a ticket, go around Cortona, go in the location. So it's completely different, and that's why Flâneur is so strong.
I do think concept Flâneur is a real way to show arts. It should be part of the everyday life. Shouldn't be only on galleries and for special people or restricted population. It can't be. It's part of life. You take something from the life and you put in a special place. I feel it's fine sometimes, of course. But this concept, Flâneur concept, is a real part of creation.
The engagement is going to be completely different, because people it's going to be a random crowd. It's not going to be just specifically confined to an art world or the photography aficionados. It's going to be, we will see people who just don't care about photography coming in and just wondering what the hell's going on. We will see people who know exactly what's going on, we'll see their reaction.
Foi surpreendente, foi a forma como é exposto, que é na rua, obviamente, que eu nunca tinha exposto, que se pode ver à noite, com uma iluminação que vem por dentro daqueles cubos, não é? E que se impõe na paisagem da cidade. Isso é que é surpreendente para mim, a maneira como está exposto, a maneira como o trabalho tem visibilidade. E isso eu gostei imenso.